everyone, I'm Sushreeya. Today I am going to be talking about a really magical topic, but for you friends, it might also be interesting. Okay, can you guess what I'm talking about? Nice and close, but I'm going to be talking about tides. Do you know what is a tide? We first have to understand that to move on to our next question. Well, if you don't know what a tide is, I do, so let me let you know. A tide is it's a rising or falling moment of the shore at different times of the day, which can be evening, night, midnight, early morning. There are different tides. There are 4 types, but there are 2 main types. It's the low tide and the high tide. The other types are neap tide and spring tide. But let's first see what is a high tide and what is a low tide. Just so you're not confused, I made a picture, so would you like to see it? Here's what it looks like. We see here's the moon, the earth, and the sun, the bright yellow sun. But first let's look at the equation. F is for the force, like the gravitational force. Gravitational, we don't care about that. G times the moon and the earth, or the distance between 2 objects, or the distance squared. So don't worry about that, because that's maybe a person orbiting. We don't know. It's just a person. That's all we know. So if you see this big bulge, that's actually when it's a high tide. Then you see when there's this shaded black part, that's when there's a low tide. When it's not that like high. So let's say here's the water average. If it's over here, that means it's a high tide. If it's here, this is the average, it's a low tide. So as we can see there are 3 sections, A, B, and C. Maybe we do our homework that says A, B, and C, but this is different. So section A is right above the bulge right here. I wrote in the bulge, if you can see. You can also show that too. If you see this word, it says gravity. Can you say that? It's in the word gravitational force. And we can see the moon has gravity, if you didn't know, but it just has less because the earth is 1,000 times more bigger than the moon. And it's like they're friends, right? But it's just because the moon is less massive, it's just having less gravity. Don't worry about that. But if we see A's right here, it's definitely going to reach the moon first, right? It's like the quickest or the fastest in the race to go to moon first to get the gold prize. Second place winner would probably be B. It would be the Earth. The Earth was first right here, but because of the big bulge, it had to scooch up. And right after A, B will be second place winner to get silver usually. C is going to lose, and it's the farthest. That doesn't mean it's the total last, because it's actually really last. So it will have to take the longest journey to reach moon. Remember I told you I would tell a little bit about a spring tide and a neap tide? Well, there are some tricks to also remember it. But first, let's go over them. I will tell you. I promise to tell the tricks. Okay? So we can see here's a spring tide equals straight or strong. So S spring, S straight, S strong. They all begin with S. So we can just say that the trick is that they all begin with S. This is actually not a spring tide. This is a neap tide. But how do I know? Well, a neap tide equals not straight, and it has a 90 degrees angle, or it's called a right angle. It's taking a shape of an L. This is the opposite way of L, because if you turn it around, it's the real L. This is still a right angle. Well, if the moon was right here, or the sun came right here, that would actually be called a spring angle. So this is actually a weak one. This is not that strong. This is how we remember it. Not strong means the same thing as weak, right? Correct. Bingo. So we can see not strong. What does not begin with? N, right? What does neap tide, what does neap begin with? N. So we can just say the trick is that they both begin with N. Well, there's this equation that I thought that would be easier for you to remember how many tides are in a day. 2 high tides and 2 neap tides. So this equals 4. But what is the equation? It's every 6 hours. And how much hours is a day? 24 hours. So it's like the first 12 hours and the second 12 hours, which equals a 24-hour day. What is 24 divided 6? 4. So that means there are 4 types. Or we can do it the different way. 24 divided 4, which is 2 4s, which is kind of neat, right? But what's the answer? 6. 6 hours, right? So now I have to tell you about 2 tidal things. Let me show you the picture. I made another one for you, just so you're not a lot more confused. Tidal turbines. And then second, I promised to tell you about the tidal barrage. But first, we have to see what is a tidal turbine. It is when to use the energy of moving water to build a type of dam. It is 20 to 30 miles, or you might be pretty impressed, 65 to, you might be scared too deep, 100 feet. Whoa, right? That was too scary, wasn't it? So you might not want to go in that kind of deep water, at least, if there's animals. So, as we can see, I wrote that it's also true. Tidal currents turn underwater turbines, which means that it will make electricity. So you might have the bubble around yourself like astronauts have to breathe, and some around your hand. Maybe you're holding a phone or a small electronic. Maybe your small iPad, maybe your earplugs, and you're listening to music. But I don't know how that happens, do you? Well, now I do. Well, that's just because it generates electricity with the battery. That's right here. If you can see very small, it's right there. And this just tells how much battery is going at a time. The battery, here's the router or the shield that makes it go fast or slow. That pushes the water that goes along with the electricity to get the power. Now, the tidal barrage. It is another way of currents running along the shore. That is also the same depth, the 20 to 30 miles, or we were really surprised with the 65 to 100 feet. So we can see it. If you can't see what I wrote here, I know what I wrote. I wrote, barrage controls flow of water, which means it's connected to the ground. This thing, it's pushed in and it's covered with soil. That's connected. It's the same thing like the shields were there. This just contains a little bit more of battery that makes it go either slow or fast. So it's like it's giving signal to it saying, go fast. Power needs to go fast. Go slow. Power goes slow. Or maybe all the time, maybe it doesn't want to give power to the battery. Maybe it's rested for electricity. It still needs to push its water. Or how would you move that easily? Probably would take you an hour, maybe, to swim, right? So, this is what I wanted to tell you about tides and things. Don't you think it was pretty interesting? I do too. And pretty magical thing, a tide. So, this is what I wanted to discuss with you, friends, about tides. And make sure you subscribe the videos in my channel, and make sure you like and comment. If you have any questions which you think you might want to ask me, make sure you put it in the comments, and I'd really love to answer, okay? Have a good day. See you soon. Bye.